These go to 11.
This is Spinal Tap.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Cam, and I'm joined with Russell, and we're going to be kickstarting the Reiner project. Now, late last year, we lost Rob Reiner. I don't want to get into the specifics of what all is going down with that. What we're going to do is just going to celebrate the movies that he directed, because Rob Reiner is someone who I've wanted to do a deep dive on for quite a while. His filmography is all over the place. He jumped from genre to genre and just made it all work all the time, Russell. And we both have seen, I've seen several of his. I imagine you've seen several more.
Yeah.
We've never seen all of them. So it's unfortunate, and I was telling you this before we started, it's unfortunate that we're doing it for this reason, but I'm glad we're doing this project. Again, tragic that we're doing it in such a tragic circumstance, but it is what it is.
Yeah, no, it was somebody obviously that could hop genres. Some films better than others. Obviously, we'll talk about that. But yeah, I've seen quite a bit of his works, so kind of looking forward to taking them film by film and talking about them.
Yes, but somewhat rather poetically, Rob Reiner's career began with the movie we're talking about today and ended with its sequel. Well, technically, there's a third one floating around out there somewhere that he supposedly completed before his passing. So if that is the case, I would love to see that, but that's another story for another time. We kick off the Reiner project with Rob Reiner's very first film, the first film he directed, the one that broke him out from Mike Stivic to Rob Reiner that we know. This is Spinal Tap. This was released in 1984. It starred Christopher Guest, Michael McKean, and Harry Shearer, among others. And I don't know if this is the first ever mockumentary, but it's one of the first mockumentaries about a fictional heavy metal band called Spinal Tap. They are a pretty big deal. However, their music is quite lewd, especially for the mid-'80s. And so you see over the course of time, the band's relevance start to dip, and the band members fight with each other, and it gets even worse when women get involved. But we'll get to that. But Russell, this was your first time watching this. I watched this as a rewatch to prepare for Spinal Tap 2, which I never watched. So I don't know how that works either. But I was excited to hear what you thought of it, and I'll give it to you first. What did you think first time?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this was a movie I just kind of shied away from just because I thought it I don't know. It was just it was something I thought it just looked stupid. I wasn't going to be on board with it, but I obviously didn't mind it. Like I told you, so there's a band called Steel Panther, and they do they almost spoof hair bands like Motley Crue, Bon Jovi, all the big 80s hair bands and stuff like that. But they're obviously a lot more vulgar. But it's really funny. You got to listen to them, and it sounds just like they were singing in the 80s. But no, these guys were all talented and actually did all their own singing and stuff like that, which I really respected. No, I actually like this film a lot more than I thought. There were some funny scenes. Obviously everybody talks about this film being so great and stuff like that. I think I built it up more in my head, and it was one of those things where it's it was good. Don't get me wrong. Got to let it breathe a little bit, maybe go back and revisit it later on down the road. But I thought it was serviceable. I did like it more than I thought I was going to. So, yeah.
This is a movie that you're either going to like or just not get at all, because it's very British, number one, and number two, it's very reliant on your knowledge of heavy metal history. Yeah. This is pretty much a send-up, like you mentioned, the hair metal bands. Yeah. I thought this more of a send-up of Black Sabbath, the original lineup with Ozzy Osbourne, Tony Iommi, and Geezer Butler. There's 3 members of Spinal Tap instead of 4, but I mean, Michael McKean's look pretty much has him look like Ozzy with the blonde hair.
No, I agree. No, and I thought the same thing too. And look just like him for sure.
Reiner would say in an interview that he was actually inspired after being turned off by a Judas Priest concert of all things, and said that the Black Sabbath connection was purely a coincidence. But at the same time, I'm like, really? Are you sure? Because
Yeah.
that seems eerily similar to, because without getting too deep into this quagmire, in 1980, Black Sabbath broke up. Like
Yeah.
Ozzy went on a really bad drug kick, which sadly he's no longer with us, rest in peace. But he goes into in both of his books, so he was very open about that. And Black Sabbath got Ronnie James Dio, and they got a second life. They get a third life too, but they got a second life with the Dio era. Point is, they had a very public and ugly breakup. Black Sabbath might as well have a TV series made about them because of their various roster changes and dramas and wherein, but it's neither here nor there. Point is, I found it weird that Reiner was like, the Black Sabbath thing was a bit of a coincidence, but I'm like, there's a lot of similarities there. Again, it could be a coincidence. Sadly, he's no longer around to ask about, so we'll just never know.
Yeah, but you see like those big rock bands. I'll throw Motley Crue out because that's one I really enjoy. Hair band of the '80s, notoriously known for being crazy and wild and stuff like that. But they broke up. They had, Tommy Lee left the band. They had a female drummer come in, and then they had issues with obviously Vince Neil's sobriety and drugs and stuff like that. All of them. I believe Nikki Sixx overdosed. And then his side project 6 a.m. kind of was talking about like his struggles and stuff like that with alcohol and drugs and stuff like that. But in the movie, or I should say the autobiography, The Dirt, they did a Netflix movie about that. Fun fact, Ozzy Osbourne's character is actually in it because he snorts a row of ants. That was the big, and then I think there was another thing where what was it? He peed on the ground or whatever. I think he like licked up his own pee or something like that. It was like really crazy. It's only, obviously the only things that you could really associate with one person that would do that would be Ozzy, right? But that just shows the gravitas of like the 70s, the 80s. That metal scene was crazy, and they do the best they can. Like you said, this mockumentary. Where you put these guys together, and obviously they're not going to get along. You add women to the mix. You add popularity dwindling and fading and stuff like that. These people not coming to grips with they aren't anything that they were back then. They're living in yesterday, so to speak. And I think I like it, but I do think it's done real well for that mockumentary. You know what I mean?
And just for the sake of the mockumentary part, what is considered to be one of the first, The War of the Worlds, the Orson Welles version, the radio drama, was considered the first mockumentary.
Okay.
And then there's a Woody Allen movie called Take the Money and Run, released in 1969, which is considered in certain circles to be a mockumentary. I've never seen it, so I can't comment on that. But for all intents and purposes, this is the first mockumentary. I mean, we even see Rob Reiner in it as the director. I mean, he directed this, but as the director, Marty DeBerge.
Yeah.
Which like his few deadpan scenes I thought were legitimately really great stuff.
Yeah.
And then you just got the comedy is dry. Like, it's so dry, which I can see people kind of being turned off on. But if you're really paying attention, there's some great stuff here. Like, there's the stuff with Stonehenge.
Stonehenge was hilarious. Yes, I completely agree with that.
Which would ultimately bleed over into real life when Black Sabbath did their own version of Stonehenge.
Yeah,
which that was great. And then, like, I believe it was Nigel getting stuck in the thing. Like, the big old,
that was funny.
Thing. Backstage, we're like, "Hello, Cleveland," and
hello, Cleveland, and they see the same guy that gave them the directions. I thought that was funny too. There were okay, so and I know like British humor, like I'm like hit or miss with, you know what I mean. But this was one that honestly, like the Stonehenge thing with like he obviously wanted 18 feet and got 18 inches, you know what I mean? And that was Angelica Houston's character, which I didn't know until like after the film because I seen her name in the credits, which I was kind of shocked at. That was hilarious. Like you said, when they were in Cleveland doing a show and they're like down in the, in the like the boiler room area, and they're like in the middle of nowhere and they're trying to get out on stage because you hear the crowd, all amped up for him, and they're all excited and they keep getting lost. I thought that was funny too. That was good. And then when they're in that shell, when they come out on stage and stuff like that, he can't get out. And the other guy's trying to like light it on fire to try to like melt it or whatever, try to melt it open or something. It was funny. Then he gets his arm stuck in there. Like I said, I thought that stuff was funny. I totally dug that. I did think that was really funny.
And there's so many little things that if you're not paying attention, you'll miss. Like there's like the names of some of the albums. Like there's one called Intravenous de Milo, which popped me. I thought that was very funny. And then you have their latest album, which is Smell the Glove, which I'm sure is a reference.
Which was funny.
I'm sure it's a reference to something. I've always missed it myself, but I just look at it and go, that's funny to me. I don't know why. It's just very, very weird titles. But I mean, then again, like some of the Black Sabbath titles, they were going to name one of their albums Snowblind, which was a reference to their rampant cocaine use.
I was going to say Snow. Yeah.
It was originally changed. It was finalized to Volume 4, but that was what the state of heavy metal was. They were just naming it after weird and sometimes raunchy things.
Yeah, and I like the fact that like Reiner goes into like, okay, yeah, you see a little bit of coke usage, but you don't see it being like over the top crazy. You know what I mean? Like pretty much everybody has their head on their shoulders, like so to speak, in this film. Like which I respect because you kind of take it, more seriously, I guess. In retrospect to like obviously making this a band, like they're not like heavily on drugs all the time. You know what I mean? These guys' personalities, I think, are their drugs. And then I also got like vibes between the two main stars, like almost kind of like a Lennon McCartney type thing too. Just with personalities and stuff like that. And like, who is the better of the two, like contest almost. Like I got vibes of that too. I don't know if that's what they were kind of shooting for or aiming at, but you can't help but obviously put those two musicians together in the comparison. You know what I mean?
Yes. And then there's just like, you just see like the bad luck just follows this band everywhere. They're on drummer number 11 at the start of this. And
that's funny too.
The various ways that these drummers die, like one dies in a bizarre gardening accident. One literally explodes on stage. Yeah. And the name of the drummer was Peter James Bond, which was just amazing. Yeah. There's just so many little things that just are just so good. And then you got the lead singer David, like his girlfriend Janine is into astrology, which I'm pretty sure was like a nod to Black Sabbath again, because they pulled their name from the occult, so I'm sure there's a connection there somewhere. And just the slow degradation of the gigs that they're playing, like from like a veterans concert to like a puppet show where Janine was like, I got him to get us over the puppet show. I'm like, good for you. So there's just so many like small things that just are so funny.
Yeah, especially that puppet show. There's like 80 people in attendance, which is absolutely hilarious. And they don't have the one who don't they have because he quit the band for the time being.
That was
Nigel.
That was Nigel, yes.
Nigel, yeah. So he quits the band, so they don't really have much music without him because they realize, like, dude, he's like pretty much like, you don't plan for that type of stuff to happen. So they only have like really 10 minutes worth of material, and you see them start doing that jazz thing or whatever, that jazz journey or whatever he wanted to do, and you see the guys just going like this, like booing them, and it's really funny. Like I said, though, it was one of those movies where I thought like I wasn't going to like it as much as I did. And I did enjoy it. So I'm glad I did. And I'm glad I actually finally watched it. And I can actually watch the second one now.
It's interesting with this movie in that at the time it was kind of received. So like it was received well by critics, but in terms of money, it only did like so. If Wikipedia is to be believed, it only made about $5.8 million in North America on a $2 million budget. So doing that math, it just about broke even. However, time was very kind to it. It got a Criterion release. The
Yeah.
VHS release did great numbers for them. It got a huge following, and it pretty much started the mockumentary trend. I mean, it basically gave Christopher Guest a career. Like, he would go on to direct several mockumentaries, like Waiting for Guffman, Best in Show, A Mighty Wind. That's just a few that I can pull off the top of my head. But he would get a career based on that alone. Michael McKean, who I know as Charles McGill from Better Call Saul, but he had a very long career and still going. I mean, he's on stage right now, but he was in Clue. He was Mr. Green. Like, he was in Coneheads, which I didn't realize until like a month or so ago. He was one of the FBI guys in Coneheads.
I know what you're talking about.
And like, Michael McKean just had, and continues to have, like, he was Perry White in Smallville. Like, he's had a long career. And then, like you were pointing out to me before we went live, there are several like actors in here that weren't big yet, but were about to be. Like, Ed Begley Jr. is in this one as one of the drummers.
Yeah.
You got Fran Drescher, who I literally saw a couple weeks ago in Marty Supreme.
Yeah.
He's in that, and she's in this.
Which is crazy. Yeah.
You got Bruno Kirby in here. You got Angelica Houston, like you pointed out.
Which I was shocked to see it at the end. And I knew Fred Willard, obviously. You gotta love Fred Willard. Still had that same humor in the 80s, man. The same type of delivery. Just perfect.
You got Billy Crystal making a small cameo as the mime.
Yeah.
So Reiner definitely pulled from all of his friends for this one.
Yeah. And it's really cool, though, because then you obviously see the growth that he obviously has later on with Billy Crystal and stuff like that. So it's kind of nice to see that. And it's really nice to just kind of see how it all began. You know what I mean? Like, this is very simplistic. Obviously would go on to make bigger and better, bigger films, more elaborate, more, budget films, and just really crazy to see him dabble in just the different types of genres that he did dabble with. Obviously you have you'll have a fantasy film, you'll have a horror film, you'll have a kind of like a romance. You'll have several romance films that he did. You know what I mean? So he does dabble a lot with the genre. And you kind of have to respect that, just as any director would do. You kind of respect when they go out of their element just to try to at least try their hand at it.
It's interesting that Reiner never tried a mockumentary again after this. Maybe he just figured that it was like a one and done kind of thing. But then again, he would do Spinal Tap 2. So I don't know. Sadly, I guess we'll never know. But it just seemed very interesting to me, at least, that he would never try something like this again. But to kind of put a bow on this one, this is getting an amazing grade from me. I have loved this movie for many years. It's one of those movies that just never gets old to me. It's got a certain type of humor, which for some will be a bit of a disconnect, but for me, I just I can't get enough of this one. There's just so much to love about this one. And it launched at least 3 careers, which ain't or 4 if you count Reiner. So that ain't nothing.
Yeah, for sure. And this actually, this is Spinal Tap Criterion. Literally, it just come out recently too.
Yes, it did. I thought that it had been out for a while, but as it turns out, it just came out, which I mean, well deserved in any regard.
Yeah, and it's like I said, I'm glad to finally cross this one off the list. And I mean, I see the appeal to it. It was one of those ones where I stayed away from it for the longest time just because of the humor, and I was afraid that I wouldn't appreciate it as much as everybody else did, but I did enjoy it. So I definitely give it high marks in that regard. The scenes that we talked about that hit, I thought were funny. And it's definitely, and the hour and 20-minute runtime does go by pretty quickly too. So it is a quick watch. You can find it on HBO Max. But yeah, I think it's a quick enough watch, and definitely, like you said, it definitely jump started at least 4 or 5 different careers for sure. And even Fran Drescher, if you really want to even say that too, because she was huge in the 90s, obviously with The Nanny. I think she did that Beautician and the Beast or something like that. She was in a couple films there in the 90s, and then she just like dived off after The Nanny. Like you really didn't see her much, and it was really cool to see her back in Marty Supreme.
Maybe that nanny money was pretty potent. I mean, you just never know.
You don't know. Yeah, but you can't miss the voice. You know for sure who it is.
Exactly. But I pass it off to all of you. What did you think of This Is Spinal Tap, the first one? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to read what you have to say. And Russell, I appreciate you doing this with me. Tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, you guys can find us Notorious by Chance at the time of this recording. Later on tonight, we're going to be recording Schindler's List finally. Also, we're going to do our top 10 anticipated of 26, so we're looking forward to giving you that too. Also on tap this month, we have the first Iron Man. So keep an eye open for that as we do our our lead up to Avengers Doomsday. Looking forward to that. So you guys can find us there. Notorious by Chance on the Facebook, YouTube, and all that fun stuff on X at NBC Podcast and TikTok as well.
Yep, all of those links will be down below. Go give them a subscribe over there. As far as this channel goes, we will be returning to the horror movie Iceberg next Friday, and we'll be what I hope is a big step up from Europa Report. We're going to be taking a look at Chernobyl Diaries, a movie I have no knowledge of whatsoever. But
yeah,
it came out the same weekend as the Avengers, so it got crushed. But will it be any good? Who knows? But that'll be for next week. But for now, for Russell, my name is Ryan Cam. We will see you all in the next one. Y'all take care.